Welcome back to Designsmith. In this video, I'm going to be improvising another Shoegaze album cover. Before we get started, please subscribe to support the channel. Alright, I was just sitting here daydreaming and wondering, when is Deserta going to release their next album? Because I don't know about you, but I'm getting very impatient. And I kind of have this idea in my head, so we'll see just kind of how it goes and how we'll arrive there. But what I'm seeing in my head is kind of like this picturesque setting of a tree, kind of similar to the Andy Griffith Show, that little graphic at the end credits. So kind of like that, but obviously very obscured by some fog or noise or whatever. I kind of have this idea in my head, so we're just going to kind of go for that. So we're going to start here in Unsplash. This is probably my favorite free photo website. And I'm going to start off very simple. I want to just search for a tree. And there's a very specific type of tree that I'm looking for. And if I don't see it here, I'll probably just be a little bit more specific in my search. Okay, let's go up here and change the license to free. Okay, this is absolutely nothing like what I'm seeing in my mind, but I love this photo. So I think I'm going to use this. All right, we'll paste it in here and let's line it up. And I'm going to say, you know what? Let's scale this up like this. And I'd like to kind of off-center it a little bit. And we'll do something like that. And now we'll use generative fill to fill in that empty space. Okay, it's nice what it did right there, but I'm not a big fan of what it added right here. So let's go ahead and take that out. And we'll take out these little specks right here as well. Okay, that looks great. Okay, so this is a very simple concept, very simple photo that we've got going on here, but I'm wanting some kind of effects and some kind of way that you can tell instantly that this is a shoegaze album. Because there's an obvious aesthetic that goes with most shoegaze covers, and I really want that to be present here. So now that I've got the composition of this photo exactly the way I want it, I'm gonna go ahead and flatten this, so that way when I duplicate it, it duplicates it exactly the way that it is without any of the surrounding artwork. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up to Filter, Blur, and Motion Blur. And the angle is not quite what I'm looking for. I'd like to go straight up and down. And then 2000 pixels is way too harsh, so we'll bring this down to about 100 pixels or so. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll hit OK. And what I'd like is to be able to see the effects of the motion blur while still seeing the tree very clearly. So I'm going to cycle through some blending modes here, and we'll just kind of see where we end up. Color burn is interesting. Darker color is also very nice. Lighten is definitely heading in the direction that I'm going for. Difference is interesting, and if we invert it, it kind of gives it an otherworldly type of look, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. So I think I'm going to go with lighten. It definitely gives it a nice haze around the tree while still being able to see that motion blur there. All right, so I'm going to add a new layer, and we're going to call this fog. And I'm going to fill this with 50% gray, and go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And I'll set it to about 600 or so. And hit OK, and we'll just change our blending mode to lighten. So this kind of reduces down the contrast a little bit. Whenever you add a layer of fog to something, it's going to obscure it to the point where it doesn't have as much contrast as it had before. But just to make it look a little bit more natural, I think that I'll lower the opacity down to about 60 to 70%, because I still want a little bit of those details to be in there. All right, now I'm going to duplicate my background layer again, and let's bring it on top of our motion blur background. I'm going to go ahead and name my layers here. So we'll just say motion blur 90, that's 90 degrees up and down. And now let's go to filter, blur, and motion blur again. This time we'll do an angle of 135 with a distance of 200. So we're just going to kind of composite these images together. I love the effect that linear dodge is adding, but it is way too harsh. So what we can do is go in and use our blend if tool. I'm going to go to this left caret right here. I'm going to hold down Option or Alt and just click and move this over. And as we get lower and lower, it starts to kind of reveal the rest of that tree a little bit. And you have to go pretty far down, so I'm going to go down to about 10. And I do want to bring back a little bit of the surrounding areas of the tree, but only about to there. And that looks good, we'll hit OK. And I'd like to make this look like an old photo, so let's go ahead and bring this layer on top of here. And let's hold down Shift and bring this up to right about there. We'll just move that right there, that looks good. Now we're going to change our blending modes until we get something that is looking really cool here. So I'm going to go ahead and invert these colors. That'll just make it a little bit easier to work with here. And what we want to do is make this look like a double exposure, like the film itself is overlaid on top of the photo. And what I think we'll do is rotate this 180 degrees so we can bring it over to this side and just kind of do something like that. And then to make it look a little bit more authentic, let's do like a simple rotation there. And I want to really lean into this by adding in some textures on top of this to kind of give it a little bit more of a destroyed look. So we'll scale this up to here, and then we'll use the power of our blending modes. I want this to be nice and subtle, so this is not going to be like all over the place here. So soft light is looking good, and we'll bring it down a little bit to 50% in its opacity. That looks good. And now we'll bring in a nice layer of grain on top of this. And because of the brightness, it is a little bit hard to see. I did change the blending mode to vivid light, so I think that that works a lot better. What I might do is add a photo filter layer and just give it a little bit of a warmer look. All right, and now what I'm gonna do is hit Shift Option Command E. If you're on Windows, that'll be Shift Alt Control E. And this is gonna combine all visible layers into one layer. Basically what it does is it flattens everything and then outputs it to a new layer. So we still have all of our editable layers underneath this. So just keep that in mind if you ever use that feature. All right, now I'm gonna go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. I'd like it to be to the point of you kind of have to really look closely to figure out what it is, but you eventually do get it. 25 is looking nice, so I think I'll go with that. All right, now let's make some text to go with this. And I've decided to title this album Silent Winds, Hidden Suns. I don't know, it just kind of came to me and I thought it was cool. I'll replace the comma with a slash there. All right, so let's select Deserta. We'll copy that and paste this into here. Let's lay down some guides here to give us an idea of where to place the text. Now we'll copy this and paste this into here. In fact, I think I might do like a 0.3, kind of like a Y2K type of thing. Now let's get our spacing here. It's one of those things where you just know it when you see it. Okay, that looks good right there. Okay, now I'm gonna duplicate this noise layer and bring this up here to the top. We need to change our color of the type here. And I'm gonna do something like maybe that teal that we've got over on the side, but it needs to be a lot duller. And now we'll copy this down to the artist name as well. And it's already got that texture inside. It looks really cool. All right, so now we've got this very blurry type of image and we've got very sharp text. So let's go in and fix that. We're gonna go up here to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. 25 is obviously too harsh. So let's bring this down to about 3. That looks a lot more natural. And let's do Gaussian blur again, but we need to do this around 1. All right, so here's the final product. We started off with that tree image, and now it's become this, an album cover for Deserta's 3rd album, Silent Winds, Hidden Suns. Is that a stupid title? There's a reason I'm not a musician. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.